Are the bad guys winning? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. Here's a question I think that represents a lot of people's concerns about just what's happening online. Question: in computer security, it certainly seems as if the black hats are usually one or more steps ahead of the white hats. What are your thoughts? To be clear, black hat is a term we often use to refer to the quote-unquote bad guys, the hackers and others who are attempting to cause problems. And the white hats are the folks that are basically working to prevent all that, the security researchers, the software developers, and so forth. I gotta say, it certainly seems that way, and it's for a good reason, because ultimately there are two answers for that. Almost by definition, the bad guys will always be in the lead by a little bit. I'll explain that in a minute. But also, the other answer is that honestly, it rarely affects the average consumer. So let's talk about that. The bad guys being in the lead, that is what I call the race. In other words, it's a race between the good guys and the bad guys as vulnerabilities are discovered. It's rare for a vulnerability to be discovered by the good guys before it's discovered by the bad guys. Usually, the bad guys discover things first. They then use that vulnerability to do whatever it is they're trying to do. The good guys typically find out about those vulnerabilities when the bad guys have already done something. It's that done something, a piece of malware, some kind of a breach or whatever, that causes the good guys to notice that, yeah, hey, there's a vulnerability here and we need to fix it. The bad guys are in the lead. The question is, by how much? If a vulnerability has been exploited for years and the good guys didn't know about it, well, that's a really significant lead. Fortunately, that rarely happens. In fact, I'm not aware of a situation like that right now at all. The more common scenario is that window where the bad guys have discovered and are using something, and the good guys find out about it and fix it, is usually very small. That period of time between the vulnerability's discovery and exploit and the good guy's ability to fix it and push out the update that fixes it is referred to as 0 days, because you have 0 days to actually fix the problem. It's already in the wild. Like I said, the window for that is usually very small, and it's usually not something that affects you as an average consumer. Now, one thing I understand that's frustrating is, why do these vulnerabilities exist in the first place? Why can't we just write good software? The fact is we do. Honestly, it's amazing the things that work today that we just take for granted. The reality is all software, and I really do mean all software with no exceptions, even though some people always push back on that. All software has bugs. It just does. That's a reflection of essentially two things. One, the incredible complexity of the systems, especially the ones that we are developing today. When you take a look at operating systems like Windows or Mac OS or Linux, they're amazingly complicated. Add on top of that layers of applications that are doing incredibly complicated things and infrastructure that's connecting us all in incredibly complicated ways. It'd be shocking if there weren't some bugs in there. And there absolutely are. The question, of course, is, do we know about them? No, a lot of them we don't know about. A lot of them we'll never know about because they are not something that either is in a path that people would actually use, or they're just not something that can be exposed, fortunately. Sometimes the bugs are so minor that they are intentionally not fixed. But the bugs we're concerned about here, of course, are the ones that cause vulnerabilities, cause the operating system or the other software to be able to be breached by somebody who's a bad guy. One of the things that honestly makes this situation worse is the media. The media loves to jump on the news of the latest vulnerability or the latest breach or the latest whatever. To be honest, I understand it. Bad news makes headlines. But remember that bad news is bad news specifically because it is not common. The common stuff, the systems working 24 hours a day, the systems that do all of the things that you and I rely on and just sort of, again, take for granted, that's not news because it's not exciting. It's just the system working the way it's designed. The exceptions, the rare exceptions, are the things that make the news and make the headlines. And it's very easy to think when you read the headlines that that's all that's happening. In reality, it's not. By and large, things are working amazingly well. Now, the other part of this, of course, is that besides the media, I'll just say haters gonna hate. For every operating system, for every business, there are individuals who basically, I'll just say, don't like that company or that business. For example, lots of people hate Microsoft. Lots of people hate Windows. Lots of people hate Google. They are, of course, more than ready to pile on and amplify any news of vulnerabilities or exploits or problems with any of those pieces of software. So again, there's a lot of noise that is generated when there seems to be something wrong with the systems and the software that we use. The pragmatic reality is, like I said, things are amazing. Things work. The amount of assumptions we can make about things just working is absolutely incredible. And even when vulnerabilities are found, I have to drop back and say these days in particular, they are not as much about affecting the average user as they are about targeting the large users, the companies, the banks, the so forth, where you hear about these large data breaches. Even then, you and I are typically protected by a variety of reactions when those kinds of things happen. So I have to say, like I said, by definition, the bad guys are always going to be a little bit ahead of us in what I call the race. But you and I don't need to panic. We just don't. All we really need to do is keep our basic security practices in place. Anti-malware, keep things up to date, use strong passwords, consider two-factor authentication, the litany that you've already heard so many different times from so many different people. As long as you're doing that and remaining skeptical about the news and the warnings and whatever it is that crosses your desk that may cause you concern, as long as you remain skeptical about that, you'll be fine. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/78360. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.